What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA playoffs. Monday, June 28th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have an NBA showdown between the LA Clippers and the Phoenix Suns. So let's take a look at the point guard position. I like Chris Paul from the Phoenix Suns playing the LA Clippers. Chris Paul has averaged 37.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He scored 32 and 42 fantasy points in the last two games, playing 37 and 38 minutes. He's projected at 41.9 fantasy points here tonight. He's one of my favorite players on the slate, so I like Chris Paul here versus the LA Clippers. Another point guard that I like is Reggie Jackson from the LA Clippers, and Reggie Jackson has scored 27, 34, and 37 fantasy points in the last three games, playing 40, 32, and 38 minutes. He's projected at 32 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Reggie Jackson here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. With Kawhi Leonard still out, you gotta like Paul George from the LA Clippers, who's averaged 40.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 30% usage rate. He scored 52, 54, and 39 fantasy points in the last three games, playing 41, 42, and 41 minutes. He's projected at 52 fantasy points here tonight. I think he's got to be in your lineup, so I like Paul George here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, another shooting guard that I like is Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns. He averaged 37.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 28, 28, and 25 fantasy points in the last three games, playing 38, 40, and 40 minutes. So he's cooled down quite a bit since Chris Paul has come back, but now his salary has dropped down, and he's projected at 40.5 fantasy points here tonight. So he's another one of my favorite players on the slate. So I like Devin Booker here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Mikal Bridges from the Phoenix Suns, who's averaged 26.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate. He scored 31, 23, and 12 fantasy points in the last three games, playing 39, 26, and 34 minutes. He's projected at 27.3 fantasy points here tonight, so I like Mikal Bridges here versus the LA Clippers. Real quick guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. And just a quick look at a couple of these low salary small forwards. Nicholas Batum, he's cooled down quite a bit. He's only scored 12, 15, and 5 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 16, 14, and 15 minutes, but his salary is pretty low here. He's projected at 20 fantasy points here tonight. So if you want to make your lineup different, you could consider going with Nicholas Batum and hope that he gets more minutes. And the other guy, if you want to make your lineup different, is Cameron Johnson from the Phoenix Suns. He scored 10, 19, and 18 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 17, 30, and 24 minutes. He's projected at 16.9 fantasy points here tonight. This is a high risk, high reward play. If you're looking for that low ownership play to try to make your lineup different, but super risky here, guys. So take a look at Cameron Johnson if you want a low owned sleeper pick. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I like Jay Crowder from the Phoenix Suns playing the LA Clippers. Jay Crowder has averaged 21.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 16% usage rate. He only scored 14, 15, and 14 fantasy points in the last 3 games, but he played 34, 28, and 32 minutes. So he's playing a ton of minutes. He just hasn't been productive. He's projected at 23.9 fantasy points here tonight. His salary is pretty low. I think this is a guy that could score 25 plus fantasy points here tonight just because he's playing so many minutes and he's been playing so awful the past 3 to 5 games. Yeah, the past 4 games he scored between 14 and 22 fantasy points, but 5 games ago he scored 31 fantasy points. He does have 30 plus fantasy point upside and he's getting the minutes to get there. So I like Jay Crowder here versus the LA Clippers. And another low salary power forward here, if you want to go there, is Marcus Morris from the LA Clippers. He averaged 21.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 26 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He's only scored 13, 18, and 17 fantasy points in the last 3 games, but he's played 22, 23, and 24 minutes. So he's projected at 20.1 fantasy points here tonight, but this is a guy that could get up to around 25, 27 fantasy points if he gets going, and his salary's come down quite a bit. So if you're looking for a high risk, high reward, low salary play, take a look at Marcus Morris here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like DeAndre Ayton from the Phoenix Suns playing the LA Clippers. DeAndre Ayton has averaged 33.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. He scored 62, 38, and 47 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 41, 35, and 34 minutes. So he's been on fire, and he's projected at 42 fantasy points here tonight. So I like DeAndre Ayton here versus the LA Clippers. Another center that I like is Ivica Zubac from the LA Clippers. He scored 31, 45, and 29 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 39, 32, and 34 minutes. So he's playing a ton of minutes, and he's been productive. He's projected at 31 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Ivica Zubac here versus the Phoenix Suns.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.